October 13th, 2015, Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Board members present, Mr. Floyd Thomas, representing the Mattapanai District, Mr. Jeff Black, representing the Western Caroline District, Mr. Reggie Underwood, representing the Reedy Church District, Mr. Wayne Akers, representing the Madison District, Mr. Jeff Seeley, representing the Bowling Green District, and I'm Calvin Taylor. I represent the Port Royal District. And at this time, if I could impose on you, Mr. Buck, would you come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, I'm sorry. We got to do the invocation first and then the pledge, okay? Mr. Akers, I believe it's your turn. Oh, is it your turn?
I now did.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mr. Akers.
Let us stand, please. Our loving and wonderful God, as we come into this place this evening, as a board to conduct the business of this county, we ask for your divine leading in helping us to make the decisions that we need to make. That's going to be the betterment of Caroline County and for the residents that we represent. Lord, we thank you for loving us, and we thank you for blessing us as individuals and as a county. And we just ask that you'll continue to guide, direct, and be with us as we go through our daily lives. Again, we thank you for just loving us and undergirding us with your love. What is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, no, we do not.
Okay. Any board members? If not, the agenda will stand approved as presented. Opening board comments. Mr. Thomas, do you have any?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of short ones. Just wanted to say thank you first to Chief Loftus. The residents of Belmont are working to find volunteers for fire and rescue in that area, and they've been working with the chief to talk about training, so I think that's going to be a good thing. Hopefully they'll have at least 10 volunteers who would like to start a Carmel Church fire station in the near future, and we'll keep working on that. The other one, or the second one, Mr. Chairman, is, as you know, the board voted to help Germanna come to the county. They are going to be in the Belmont Professional Building. I have been in contact with a former constituent who now lives in Spotsylvania, who wants to create a masonry class and several other trade classes to go in there. So I put him in touch with the school board. I believe he was at the school board yesterday. I don't think there's any county involvement, but I just wanted the board to know that even before the building is finished, we have people that are trying to do classes there, and I think that's going to be a great thing. And the last one, Mr. Chairman, the high school construction is going along wonderfully, but none of us ever thought of the impact that was going to have on the polling place, because the Mattapanai district, the entire district uses the high school gym. And if you've been by there lately, you notice that the high school gym parking lot is basically gone. And after further review, most of the lights inside the parking area are also gone. So I met with Mr. Whiteman, the electoral board, and school officials, and I believe, again, he asked Chief Loftus for some help. So we're going to try to use the fire and rescue lighting to keep a safe environment. And because most of the parking is gone, they'll be probably about a quarter mile to a half a mile away from the pole. I think he's got some golf carts we're going to shuttle the handicap to the polling place too. So I appreciate that in advance, gentlemen, and wanted to make sure the citizens have a safe voting experience. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Black?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Underwood?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Just two. Want to certainly thank our professional staff, the Sheriff's Office, EMS, Rescue, for helping us with the UCI bike race that went through the Reedy Church District. Certainly, it was an event that was a national event, and I think we got some exposure. Also want to say thank you to Sheriff Lippa and his staff. On last Saturday, he had a community relations day where he and his staff came out and got to meet some of the residents of the community, played a little basketball, threw football around. But just the first steps in being proactive in terms of community policing. So I certainly wanted to say thank you to the sheriff for that, and we look forward to doing activities again as a group to build our relationships in our county with our citizens so we can be proactive. So that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I do. On the 22nd of October at 7 o'clock, I have a constituent meeting at in Ladysmith Village at the library at Ladysmith Village. We had one last night in Lake Caroline. It was well attended. And basically what I've done is just to explain what's going on and to have some insight as to how Walmart is going to impact the county and certainly impact the area of Ladysmith. And then on the 29th of October, I will be in Pendleton subdivision at 6 o'clock with the same group of staff. Just want to let that be known.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Mr. Seeley?
Just want to remind everybody that the Harvest Festival is this Saturday. The weather looks like it's going to be on the cool side, which is always good for Harvest Festival. Looking forward to seeing all kinds of folks there.
Thank you. And I just have a couple of, would like to remind board members that the registrar and the board of electors are visiting the polling places. They were at the Woodford precinct this morning. So if you would like to be there when they schedule the visit, you could certainly check with the registrar, or I suspect the registrar will probably let you know. But that's something you might want to keep in mind, is they are visiting the polling places, and if you have concerns or issues, you could certainly be there. If you could be there with them, you may be able to address any issues that you may have. And the only other one I would talk about is several weeks ago, we honored Reverend Jackson for his work in the community and his leadership. And I'm sorry to say he passed away on last week. And he is being funeralized this Saturday at 2 p.m. So I'm glad that the board had the opportunity to recognize him in the great things and the impact that he has had on the community and on the county. And I send our condolences to his family. Having said that, that takes us to presentations and reports. Our first presentation is the recognition of Andrew Buck for Caroline High School Memorial Garden Project. Mr. Buck, you may come forward, and while he's coming, I'm going to read his resolution such that we will all benefit from what's been written here. And it says, a resolution congratulating Andrew Buck for the completion of his memorial garden at Caroline High School. Whereas Andrew Buck, a Caroline High School junior and member of the Boy Scout Troop 173 in Bowling Green, recently held a dedication ceremony for a memorial garden he completed at Caroline High School. And whereas the garden, which consists of benches, ringing a semicircle pathway lined with flowers and dogwood and cherry trees with a weeping willow at the center, was conceived, designed, and constructed by Mr. Buck with the help of family, friends, and his Boy Scout troop. And whereas Mr. Buck originally envisioned the garden as a way to honor the memory of one of his best friends, and then realized that it could offer visitors a place to contemplate and reminisce about loved ones and friends who have passed away. And whereas Mr. Buck's project is a gift to the community and a truly impressive example of what the youth of Caroline County are capable of accomplishing. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby congratulates and commends Andrew Buck for a job well done and extends its best wishes for continued success in the future. It's adopted this 13th day of October 2015 and is signed by Charles M. Colley Jr., Clerk of the Board, and Calvin B. Taylor, Chairman. You want to say something? Okay. Well, thank you again, Mr. Buck. We appreciate what you've done, and we're very proud of you. Other board members would like to kind of shake hands with you as well. If there's a family member from Mr. Buck that's here, you're welcome to come forward if you would like. Oh, okay.
Mr. Taylor, to my left.
Okay. What would you want to do?
Okay, that's good, right there. All right.
Thank you, and they would like to see you. Congratulations.
I've been working on the project for years.
So how long before you actually get?
I'll be going for my board, hopefully later.
Oh,
I'll be
okay.
sending paperwork out.
Oh, okay. You want to sit?
Well,
Next one.
well, I guess I gotta read it, so.
It's kind of hard to do that standing up.
It is. Again, congratulations to Mr. Buck, and we appreciate all the hard work that he did. Our second presentation is the adoption of a resolution designating October 21st through 31st, 2015 as Red Ribbon Week in Caroline County. And it says a resolution declaring October 21st through 31, 2015 Red Ribbon Week in Caroline County and honoring the Young Marines program. Whereas the Young Marines is a drug demand reduction program sponsored by the Marine Corps League membership, is for children ages 8 to 18 or through completion of high school. And whereas the Young Marines models its program after Marine Corps values of honor, courage, and commitment by focusing on teaching youth to live a drug-free lifestyle and teaching ideas such as leadership, teamwork, and discipline. Whereas the local branch of the Young Marines is named after Lance Corporal Caleb John Powers, a Marine from Fredericksburg who participated in the program and was killed in action in Iraq. And whereas the Lance Corporal Caleb John Powers Young Marines participate in and promote the National Red Ribbon Campaign. And whereas each year the Young Marines sponsor a National Red Ribbon Week that gives the individual the opportunity to wear a red ribbon signifying their opposition to illegal drug use. And whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in every community in America during Red Ribbon Week, October 25th through the 31st. And whereas business, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical institutions, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims October 25th through 31st, 2015 as Red Ribbon Week in Caroline County. And be it therefore resolved that the board does hereby recognize and commend the Lance Corporal Caleb John Powers, Young Marines, and its commitment to live a drug-free life and participation in Red Ribbon Week. It's adopted the 13th day of October, 2015. It's signed by Charles M. Colley Jr., Clerk of the Board, and Calvin B. Taylor, Chairman. Thank you. Is there? Okay. If you would want to come forward at this time so that we can present this. Again, on behalf of the Caroline County citizens and the Caroline County Board of Supervisors, I would present this resolution to the both of you and wish you much happiness and success. Okay? Thank you. And the other board members, so we can take this. Okay. All the board members.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for the work you all do.
Dad? Great job.
You know, I am just kind of grand. Okay, our next agenda item is report from Rappahannock Goodwill Industries.
Thank you for the time on the agenda tonight. I'm Woody Van Valkenburg. I've appeared before the Council of the Board of Supervisors several times over several generations of boards of supervisors. I'm here tonight just to say thank you because I am retiring after 35 years at Rappahannock Goodwill Industries. I want to thank you and the citizens of the Caroline County for your support of Rappahannock Goodwill Industries. I also plan to introduce and allow us to say a few words my successor. So Rappahannock Goodwill Industries has been working here in the community for quite some time. Caroline County, while we don't have too many operations, is always on in our sights for building a store or providing job help centers or any of those activities that happen with our social enterprise. You do know, I've heard tonight from some fine people about our trailers that collect the donations. What you might not know is those donations go through the stores. We probably know that. The profits of those stores go into our social enterprise, providing such programs as job help centers, places where people can go for free to help them learn how to use the internet for job seeking, to learn interviewing skills, to get their resumes in order, in short, to get on with the business of work. Rappahannock Goodwill Industries also provides employment for quite a few people who otherwise can't find employment in the mainstream world. Primarily those folks are people with significant disabilities. Caroline County goes back years. Prior to my time with Rappahannock Goodwill, which, if you do the math, is 1980, in the 70s, Rappahannock Goodwill, our predecessor organization, Rappahannock Rehabilitation Facility, was supported by Caroline County. And when I say support, again, it's through the various programs that we offer. It has never been, to my knowledge, through asking for any kind of budget allocation. We don't do that. Our social enterprise is the economic fuel to run Rappahannock Goodwill Industries. So I am retiring after 35 years, and again, want to thank all the county administrations, the supervisors, and the Caroline County people for the support of Goodwill. One person I really want to thank, particularly with her work of late, is your own tourism manager, Kathy Beard, who is my boss. Kathy has been a long-time member of the Board of Directors of Rappahannock Goodwill Industries and has served in the role of the chairman. And during that time, we went through succession planning, search, and chose my successor, and Kathy ran that well. You might want to find, well, she doesn't want me to say find another position in the county, but Kathy is here. You all know Kathy. She has been wonderful for our Board of Directors. So I want to introduce Donnie Tolson. He's our current Chief Financial Officer. He will be succeeding me as President and Chief Executive on January 1st. Personally, I couldn't be more pleased with Donnie taking this position. I've known Donnie for over 25 years. He's a colleague, he's a mentor, and he's a friend. I believe that Rappahannock Goodwill Industries will continue along the path that it has in growing and serving even more people with barriers to employment. Donnie has a 27-year career with Goodwill Industries International, and then he took what he refers to now an extended sabbatical. For about 7 years, he was retired, and then I found that the Goodwill burn hadn't really gone out. And I found him sitting on his porch in Front Royal, Virginia, and brought him. He said he'd give us 2 years. It's 5 years, and he's now taking on the President and CEO role. So I'd like Donnie to have a few minutes to paint a picture of what he sees as a future for Goodwill. Thank you very much again for the support you've given to the company and to me personally.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll be very brief. I want to thank each of you supervisors for your public service. You know, communities don't work without the support of the governance function. And we particularly on the drive-in appreciated all the fine signs that Supervisor Seeley had out there. And judging from their quality, I'm sure you'll do quite well. So I look forward to working with you, with the county administration, with the Economic Development Authority and others as Rappahannock Goodwill Industries helps you build a community and series of communities together. You know, I'm going to remark just very briefly that our founder, 1902, said, "Be dissatisfied with your work until every handicapped and unfortunate person achieved their fullest usefulness and enjoyed a maximum of abundant living." And he said that a long, long time ago, about the time Woody started his Goodwill career. And that is what we believe. One job at a time. We're in the workforce development business, one job at a time, regardless of the barrier, chronic poverty, illiteracy, criminal history, disability, what have you. Now, you guys are hitting some home runs on the economic development front, and that's well known throughout the region. And so I think it's safe to say from that perspective, and we would appreciate being at that table when those discussions are had. Rappahannock Goodwill Industries, certainly in the next 5 years, I can see both a thrift store presence and a job help center in one or more of these communities in Caroline County. And I could go on and on and on, but I tell you, the best spokesperson for what Rappahannock Goodwill Industries does, and indeed all Goodwill Industries, is one of our many successes. So, with a little help from Joey here, we're going to try and, 90 seconds, crane your necks in that direction. We might have sound. We thought we had sound.
Unemployment, you know, it was like living on the streets is no fun, you know what I mean? After I met my friend, that's one thing. I'm originally from Maryland, and I came down with my friend of mine. Her family's down here. So, you know, it was kind of rough in Maryland for me. So I figured to change the situation, would better my life and everything. Homelessness, you know, divorce, unemployment, you know, it was like living on the streets is no fun, you know what I mean? After I met my friend, that's when things really started spiraling up for me. I looked at reality aspect and said, I can get back. I met Brian at the Job Help Center. I learned my computer skills and just got my willpower back. It's a great opportunity. If you really want to get yourself together, these people are there for you. I got my own website now. I'm online. I'm cool. I'm making it happen. Goodwill Industry, the Goodwill Job Center program is there to help you. And I love it. I love it what they did for me. They gave me the incentive, the uplifting power to be able to just, hey man, get back on your 2 feet. Go be a man. Go do what you got to do. Get your life back in order. And if I can do it, anybody can do it, man. It's easy. Just set your mind to it.
Thank you. And I have a handout. I'm not sure how to get it to you. I flunked the paper airplanes class. And just thank you, Rappahannock Goodwill Industries. Thanks you. And I personally look forward to visiting with you folks in the future. Thank you.
I would just like to say on behalf of the board that we very much appreciate Woody as well as David for the work that you all have done and for the Goodwill Industries and how they impact the community. We recognize the importance of that group, and we certainly recognize the importance of you, Woody, in the 35 years that you've been with Goodwill and the accomplishments that you've been able to make during that time and the community impact that has been made as a result of what Goodwill is doing. And certainly we like to thank our economic development person as well for your input and for what you've done to help make this a successful endeavor. And again, we just say thank you. Okay, that takes us to our final report. We have our director from the Rappahannock Council Against Sexual Assault. They work with Caroline County and certainly other jurisdictions as well. But they've been very successful within the county, and there are some programs that they've initiated, and I just thought it would be good for the board to hear the impact that this group is having in the county. So without any more talk, I'll turn it over to Mark, and you may.
Thank you, Chairman Taylor. My name is Mark Blackwell, and I'm the Executive Director of the Rappahannock Council Against Sexual Assault. And we provide services to sexual assault victims in Planning District 16, of which Caroline County is a part of. And I'm just going to we want to tell you a real exciting partnership that we've had, some of the stuff that we've been doing with the Caroline County public school systems. Just a little bit of information about our agency. Next year, we will celebrate 30 years in operation. We were founded back in 1986 as a rape crisis center. We are governed by a board of directors. We're a 501(c), of which I'm proud to say that Chairman Taylor is a member of our board of directors. We have an operating budget of about $365,000 a year. About $235,000 of that comes from it's a pass down through block grants that come through the federal government to the Department of Criminal Justice Services, basically through different crime victims, victims of crime allocations of funds. About $40,000 of our budget comes from the localities in PD 16. $500 of that comes from Caroline County. Again, I want to get to the fun stuff that we're doing with the county, but just an idea of what we do for the victims in our area. We have a hotline service that operates 24/7 for anybody that's in crisis that needs to call, that we can deal with crisis situations or just make a referral to a local agency if that's necessary. Hospital accompaniment is where we send a volunteer or a staff member to the hospital to accompany somebody that is the victim of sexual assault. There's been a lot in the news and in the General Assembly about this whole process and the collection of forensic materials and that type of stuff, and we're there for that process. The case management program helps people that are in the recovery phase of their trauma to work through and connect with other services in the community to make them whole again. And then we have a counseling program that provides trauma-based services to them, again, to help them in their recovery process. The outreach and prevention is what David Schaefer, who is their community coordinator, does, and I'm going to let him go into that for you, please.
Okay, so for our outreach program, what we do is awareness activities in the community. Earlier in the year, we were actually at the Caroline Family Fair at Caroline Middle School doing presentations on teen dating violence and healthy relationships. We are going to be at the Harvest Festival at the end of the week, and we participate in other awareness activities in Planning District 16, including vigils on community campuses as well as Germanna, and social media outreach and activities like that. Prevention, which is what we try to put a lot of effort behind in our communities, because ultimately our goal is to no longer need our cost of services. So we do presentations, as we are going to mention, Caroline Middle School. We do presentations on UMW's campus, Germanna. I do frequent presentations with the Rappahannock Juvenile Center as well as Chaplain Youth Center in Fredericksburg. And we also participate in the Office on Youth's My Life program in King George Middle School. So in Caroline, we talked to sixth graders, the entire sixth grade class, as well as towards the end, seventh grade class. We came in following the GREAT program was no longer going to be facilitated as a result of an unfortunate accident to the facilitator. But we talked to sixth graders about 5 sessions apiece. At the beginning of each, we did a pretest, and following we did a post-test to sort of measure the successes and what students were learning and what they needed to learn, what they already knew. 93% responded yes or probably yes on our post-test, compared to 42% on their pretest. When asked, does this describe a healthy relationship? Quote, your friend pressures you to act a certain way. It represents an increase of 51%. When asked, is this a warning sign? Your friend makes excuses when they are rude to you or others. Students reported 14% yes and probably yes on the pretest, while 89% gave positive response in our post-test. We also observed an increase in the number of students reporting that they knew how to reach out to somebody. So that would be 71 to 93%. Those two first questions are our primary targets. We wanted to make sure that students were not only recognizing unhealthy but also healthy behaviors and relationships, or what we would call red flags or green flags. And we also wanted to make sure that students knew who to talk to. I have previously facilitated, and our CASA has previously facilitated similar presentations to other communities in the past, and what we noticed is that there's a dramatic increase in what students are being able to recognize. So the great work that is already being done with regards to bullying, as well as other violence prevention efforts in the community and schools are being recognized in these pre-tests and post-tests, as well as the work that our CASA is doing. And if you all have any questions for us tonight or in the future, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted the board to kind of be aware of the input that this group has within our county. I'm sure the sheriff could attest to the fact that, you know, how important training our young people is. If we can meet them at early ages and begin to deal with some of the issues that they have, then hopefully we can help to put an end to some of the tragic things that go on. Just this afternoon, Interstate 95 was closed down between Massaponax and I think Route 3 because someone jumped off the bridge. And more we are hearing about issues of tragedy. And while I don't know that it's our job necessarily to do that, but I think it's the job of the country to do what we can to try and head off some of the terrible things that are going on, and certainly through this group and many other groups, training, learning to identify certain issues and behaviors, and having some type of program in place to try to address it is probably the only way we're going to stop it. So basically that's why they're here. If other board members, do you have questions or comments? If so, you could speak at this time?
I just had a question about something Mr. Blackwell referenced.
Sure.
Mr. Blackwell, you referenced during your presentation the news story about test kits that weren't being processed. Are you involved in that, or is that purely state law enforcement?
That would most likely be state law enforcement. We try to maintain our focuses on the victims and supporting the victims. So we would work with law enforcement as well as Commonwealth's Attorney's Office when it comes to specific cases, but we're not actually involved in sort of the pushing of actually testing these kids.
Okay, so that's not something that the county helps fund you, and in this case, since you're not doing that, it's all on the state, and we need to be more active on the state level.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as I'm aware, the state and the communities as well as the rest of the country are really beginning to take some great leaps when it comes to testing these kits and addressing sexual and intimate partner violence.
Thank you, Mr. Chapin.
Mr. Black, did you have, Mr. Underwood? Thank you. Mr. Akers?
No.
Mr. Seeley? And I don't have any more. Again, thank you for what you do, and we very much appreciate your presentation. Okay, that takes us to appointments. Recreation Advisory Committee at-large member. I don't know if that's, we have a person for that. What we can do is we can leave it on the agenda for next time, and if a board member has someone that they would like to see in that role or suggest, we can do it at our next meeting. Okay? The Economic Development Authority at-large member is presently being filled by Mr. Philip or Reverend Philip Atkins, and he has said that he would be willing to serve in that capacity if the board so desires. So we can entertain a motion at this time to fill that appointment.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Philip Atkins remain the at-large member of the Economic Development Authority.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that Mr. Philip Atkins would remain the at-large member serving the Economic Development Authority. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. That takes us to the consent agenda, items A through G. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any board member would like to question or pull? If not, we can entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, items A through G.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And just to make sure, on item G, which is the autism conference, I'm pretty sure we're going to approve that. The question is, they still pay the custodial fee, right? Even when we waive the fees, the custodial fee is still charged? You're saying no to the custodial fee? Okay. You can just, that's fine. You can shake your head no, that's fine. Normally, when the board waives the fees, it's all. Okay. Okay.
Okay. If not, we can approve the agenda as presented, A through G.
Mr. Chairman, yep.
So moved.
We make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to.
We need a motion.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve consent agenda A through G.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the consent agenda as presented, items A through G. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Okay, let me see. Are there, we can't do any public hearings, but.
You could do 8.
Okay, approval of change order number 2 for Motorola Public Service radio project. We can look at that one, agenda item 8.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, when Deputy Chief Garnett gave the update a couple of meetings ago, the question came up about full foliage for the testing, which we actually have started this week, and obviously we're not at full foliage at this time of year, and so working with Dave Eunice from Federal Engineering and Motorola, got them to agree that any grids that come back between 1 and 2 bit error rate, with 2 would be the worst you could have. Anything more than 2, it's failing. So that would be the marginal areas would be between 1 and 2 bit error rate, that they would agree to come back at no charge when the leaves have come back out in late spring or to test any of the grids, and it's 3,000 some grids that they have to test. And so that way we can then have the system operational and get use of the system in December, hopefully. We'll go on and pay them the milestones for the test that they're doing now, and their final payment we'll hold back 5%, which will be about $125,000, which will settle up after they do the retest. And right now we don't know how many grids that'll be, and we'll have Federal look at the data to make sure that they're testing what they're supposed to be. So we thought that was a workable solution for both parties. Otherwise, we just wouldn't have had any use of the system through the whole winter.
So really, I don't know that we are in a position, we can't do without the service. And my understanding is they will come back if there's an issue.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess my question is not the ones that actually fail 1 or 2 bits, but do you get a pass rate in areas that might be marginal because there aren't any, the leaf coverage is lower? I just found it interesting that there's no accepted standards for full foliage.
Correct.
I found that an interesting statement since we've been talking about that for 6 months.
The best we could garner from foliage makes obviously a difference, but it's not like no foliage versus full foliage, where you would definitely see things that are much better that will be much worse with the leaves, so that we're sort of at, 50% or 60%, whatever we're at. Everybody, and Dave Eunice, this was his suggested fix from Federal to be able to get that off of dead center of not being able to use the system the whole winter, that this would provide the best. And the report I'm getting back, pretty much everything is testing out at near about 100% of what they've done so far. So we're not really finding any bad spots yet. And this is on road coverage. So yeah, deep in the woods it may make a difference, but this is on road coverage anyway.
I guess I have a question for Major Mosier. Will we know this winter, will you be able to tell us where there are issues in radio coverage?
Yes.
Can we keep track of those throughout the winter so that in the spring we can come back and look at those areas?
That is part of the plan, yes, sir.
Because one of the things that's even more, maybe more detrimental is wet limbs in the winter time, because they're more like antennas than they are blocking coverage. Foliage is blocking coverage. 700 megahertz doesn't, there are some minor problems, but wet limbs could actually be for us one of our bigger problems. I just like to keep track of the dead spaces.
And that's going to be part of our warranty anyhow. If we have any problem areas throughout the county, we'll constantly keep track of that as well.
Will we be using boosters in the cars, since I know some of the trunks actually have boosters? Will we be using those all the time or just when you need them?
No, the only boosters that we'll have will be in the buildings for in-building coverage.
So nothing in the trunks?
Not required.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Can you follow up on that, Major? You said the only boosters you'll have are in buildings.
For in-building coverage, that's correct.
So if there's an incident in this building, you would actually bring a booster in with you?
No. It's actually a device that will be purchased, and some of the proffers that we've made on some of the most recent ones, the sheriff has asked for that to be put into like the Walmart building so that the coverage inside Walmart will be better. Okay. And they run, I don't remember what they priced them out, $45,000 a piece or something like that.
They're in the 40,000 range.
The chief might know better on the price on that.
Just like to add one thing. And part of our contract is some coverage on identified buildings, schools being one of those that we identified in the contract that Motorola needs to test inside. If it comes below those decibel levels, they need to put an in-building solution in that.
They will provide at no additional cost.
That is correct, on the buildings that were identified in the contract. Not all buildings, but specific ones we knew we had to have coverage in, schools being the predominant one we look for.
There's 11 buildings in question.
Okay. And what we're saying now as a policy in the future, when there are large buildings or large developments, we will ask them to provide a booster